Want your boss to put some real action behind the rhetoric when they talk about making your workplace more inclusive? Find out how to hold their feet to the fire and demand diversity on the Diversity Dude podcast.
Hello there, and welcome back to the Diversity Do podcast. I'm your host, Lambert Fisher, marriage and family therapist, award winning author, and national speaker on the topic of multicultural awareness and diversity. And for those of you who are interested in even more positive and encouraging tips and strategies beyond what I share in podcasts like this, then feel free to check out my award winning book, Diversity in Clinical Practice. Nationally recognized for the unique way in which it addresses the often difficult topic of multicultural awareness and diversity, designed for more than just therapists. If you're a helping professional in any way, diversity in clinical practice can help you meet the greatest variety of cultural needs possible for those whom you serve. And it's available in paper and audiobook versions for your convenience. And if you haven't heard it yet, I invite you to visit TED.com and check out my talk called What to Do When You Offend Someone, where I offer a positive and practical perspective on how to navigate unintentional offenses in daily life. To date, it's been viewed over 500,000 times. Check it out for yourself, and if you're encouraged by it as well, share it with a friend. And whether it be through my one on one relationship building efforts as a therapist or my informing and empowering efforts as an author and speaker, know that my personal mission is to do my part to improve the world one strengthened relationship at a time. So, today I want to share with you an encouraging perspective on cultural resolutions. So, it's that time of the year, the beginning of the new year, when many ways we say goodbye to the previous year and look ahead to making the most of new opportunities in the new year. And sure, in many ways, the transition to a new year is just another day in a week, another number on the calendar. However, it's also a beneficial excuse to reflect on the past and make plans for the future, personally and professionally. And the method by which many choose to make plans to improve their future is by making New Year's resolutions. For some, their New Year's resolutions relate to better eating habits and increased health exercise. And for others, it's about better intimate relationship boundaries or taking a leap and pursuing new business endeavors. And as it relates to this podcast, New Year's resolutions can also be a reasonable excuse to improve cross cultural relationship habits through what I like to refer to as cultural resolutions. What do I mean by that? Well, I've spoken at length in previous podcasts about how cultural awareness doesn't have to be something negative and polarizing, nor does it have to be something we're forced to do. Instead, cultural awareness, cultural competence, cultural humility, and the various names we give to the effort to understand ourselves and others culturally can be a positive and encouraging and unifying opportunity we get to do, not just for the benefit of others, but for our own personal and professional benefit as well. It's because of that I recommend you begin a new year considering whether officially or just to yourself, adding a cultural resolution to your New Year's resolutions list. One cultural resolution consideration you might consider is this: commit to increasing your cultural understanding of yourself. I know it may seem odd to start with thinking about yourself, especially when so much of the diversity, equity, and inclusion conversations these days is about making people feel judged for not thinking about others the way someone else believes they should be thinking about them. It's unfortunate, but that's how people experience it often. However, while helping people who feel culturally unseen, unheard, and undervalued is an important thing to consider in a healthy way, in mind and in action, one of the most common barriers to accomplishing such is the immense distance that is felt between ourselves and others. Basically, it often feels like we're asked to sacrifice our well being, or at the very least, our conveniences, at the same time as it feels like fewer and fewer conveniences are being had in life anyway, for the sake of some unknown and different other. However, in addition to the benefits of understanding more about ourselves through our own history and a broader perspective of ourselves in the present, the more we expand our understanding about ourselves culturally, the more we can begin to see and understand others' cultural experiences as well, whether similar or different, and thus have a better chance at empathizing with the experiences of the appreciation and underappreciation of their cultural identity in their daily lives. Resolving to learn more about yourself in the new year benefits you as well as those whom you encounter. A second cultural resolution consideration might be this: commit to expressing appreciation for others' cultures in the new year. What might this look like? Well, let me first say it does not look like going up to someone from a culture, patting them on the back and saying, "Hey, good job. You guys are doing all right." And that's not what I'm talking about. I strongly recommend you not do that. However, what you can consider is responding to people who have continually experienced their cultural expression as being seen as unwelcome and an inconvenience in many personal and professional environments, and pleasantly surprising them by welcoming their expressions of their cultural identity, making it clear that if their cultural identity is important to who they are as a person, then your interest in learning about them means that you're also interested in learning about what their culture means to them as well. It's about being convenienced by the opportunity to learn about their culture rather than being inconvenienced by it. Now, let me be clear. This does not mean that you have to view their culture as the most important thing in your life or the life of your business. Rather, that you are voluntarily, not reluctantly, choosing to learn about what their culture means to them. It is then when you have the opportunity to show the value you have for them by finding ways to show more than just verbal appreciation, but to put that appreciation into action whenever reasonably possible, helping create space for them to not just be heard and accepted, but also seen, not just by you, but by whomever you have access to influence. Which leads to a third cultural resolution consideration worth mentioning, and that's to commit to advocating culturally in the new year. Now, advocacy doesn't always have to do with protests and bullhorns, or even going to HR and speaking up on behalf of some big injustice in the workplace. It can involve this, but it's not always what's necessary on a daily basis. Often, advocacy merely means adding a balanced perspective to a polarizing conversation, whether at home, in a workplace, or in your community. When you hear someone making comments about how inconvenient it is that someone would have the audacity to express some other cultural value and expect to be heard and considered, despite the fact that that's just not the way things have been done previously, you then have the opportunity to express something reasonable like, "I get it. Their request is inconvenient because it forces us to have to consider something new. But doing something new isn't always bad. And it doesn't mean that our needs have to be changed and that it always are bad either. It just means that the way things have been done meets our needs more so than it meets theirs. And just like we like having our needs met, they might just be trying to get the same thing that we have. Hopefully, if we can work together, we can find a way to modify things slightly so that we can still get our needs met, but they can get their needs met as well. What do you say? Just as an example, that counts as advocacy. No bullhorn needed, no petition needed, no allegiances needed, and yet healthier conversations can be had and more needs can be met in the new year and moving forward. With all these considerations in mind, my hope for you is that you would make the most of what can be seen as an arbitrary calendar transition and turn it into an opportunity to make a personal transition to a more culturally considerate interactions in your relationships, personally and professionally. Consider creating and committing to your own cultural resolutions in this new year. You never knew. Unlike resolutions about exercise and healthy eating that only last a little bit of time, these resolutions can be the beginning of healthier habits you can maintain throughout the year and beyond. And with that, I say thanks again for listening today to the Diversity Do podcast. If you have any pressing diversity related questions that you'd like me to address on an upcoming podcast, or if your organization is in need of a shame free and empowering guest speaker or training on this often sensitive topic, then feel free to reach out to me directly at www.diversitymadesimple.com. And if you know of anyone else who could benefit from a positive and encouraging perspective on this often difficult topic, feel free to send a link to this podcast so they can be encouraged as well, or share with them my award-winning book, Diversity in Clinical Practice, available at Amazon.com. And don't forget to visit TED.com and check out my talk on what to do when you offend someone. I hope it inspires you so that you can share it with someone else and they can be inspired as well. And as usual, I look forward to addressing as many topics as possible in future podcasts to help you improve as many relationships as possible at work, at home, and in your community. And as always, remember this: you don't need to know everything about everyone in order to have a positive impact on someone. Thank you all for tuning in and have a great day.
Tune in each week and find out how to demand and implement diversity at your job. To hear more, check out previous Diversity Dude shows on ShalettaMakesMeLaugh.com.
You know Shaletta makes you laugh. But did you know Shaletta Brundage can also make you think and boost your business? Media personality, activist, and comedian Shaletta Brundage founded Shaletta Makes Me Laugh to celebrate and share the best of Black culture. It's a podcasting platform. You can download 10 weekly podcasts hosted by African-American subject experts at ShalettaMakesMeLaugh.com or wherever you find your favorite podcasts. ShalettaMakesMeLaugh.com is also a production house, creating broadcast-quality commercial content. And Shaletta and her team of storytellers create powerful promotional campaigns to get businesses the brand awareness they're looking for. Some of Minnesota's top businesses trust Shaletta, and you can too. Get out the word about your events and products and get in front of communities of color with ShalettaMakesMeLaugh.com. She's got the power to help your business.